Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Stellar Cycles podcast, your hot girl database for all things we wish we were taught but get to learn together now. Everything pertaining to your femininity, your cycle and wellness, and your walk in life as a woman. I'm your host, Alina, and today we're talking about addressing the most common questions around meditation. The goal of today's episode is to disperse any confusion or lack of information around the subject, as it can be somewhat difficult to grasp because it's so commonly misperceived. You are going to learn about how to fall in love with being alone, the importance of distinguishing loneliness from solitude, how meditation began and has held significance across many cultures, the mechanisms of how it helps your brain sleep and ability to be present and make something good out of something bad. And on top of it all, my guest leads us through a lovely guided meditation towards the end. First off, a few updates. I really don't have much for you guys. I feel like when life is going as it should, no planets are in retrograde right now. Everything seems to just be flowing forward without any resistance. And enjoy it while you can, right? If there's anything we've learned about life is that nothing ever stays the same. So I'm really appreciating this season of quiet. And I do know that it's also a season of waiting for some in different ways than others. And for me, I'm definitely sitting on a few things that I want to make sure that I make the right decision for, if that makes sense. But aside from that, I've just been working on things such as my home. I've been kind of redoing my bathroom, and by that I mean making it more functional and pretty to me, because every time that I'm done getting ready in there, it's a literal war zone, and I have a tendency to just leave all my products out. And I just don't think that the way that my bathroom looks physically represents how organized I feel as a person. So I do need to attack that and get it under control so that it can serve me in the best way. And so when I go in there, it can really feel like my sanctuary. Everything is beautiful, but at the same time set up for me to succeed in my morning routine, in my evening routine, and so on and so forth. So I will have an update for you guys next week on how it all turned out. Along with that, I have had a generally healthy, symptom-free luteal phase. I am expecting my period anytime soon. Like any day now, girl, you're welcome. Come through, please. But aside from that, I've really been incorporating the luteal phase foods this time around, because I know even in just one cycle, it can really turn things around for your period. So I've been crunching on radishes, dipping that in hummus, dipping celery sticks, oranges, carrot sticks into hummus, and I have been finding ways to incorporate even a little bit of that into every day. It doesn't have to happen at every meal, usually around lunch for me, but I've just found that I've been feeling so good, and it's all stemming from what I choose to put in my body. Crazy, right? Like completely mind-blowing. And I held a Galentine's party for my friends. It was so much fun. I went for the mob wife theme. I kind of had seen like enough of just the pink and girly vibe, and I was like, hey, how about if we do something different? So I got this idea, and when I tell you, the girls were so stoked, and I was stoked with how it came out. My friend Alexia helped me set everything up. It took us about 2 hours, and if I had done it by myself, it would have taken 3 times as long. But I'm just finding that I love party planning. I love going and sourcing all of the cool things that we need to really bring the vibe together and make it feel special, and then of course set up and execute. It's really become a passion of mine, so let's see where that goes. We did little heart-shaped pizzas. We had such great conversations. Every single girl that came to my Galentine's was a vibe. Like, there's no weird energy. Everyone was able to talk to everyone else. We shared hilarious stories, and towards the end, we had a dancing cleanup party where I don't know. I never expect my guests to clean up for me, but the fact that the girls offered before heading out was like, oh my gosh, like you're this amazing. It was just great. So we put on some, you'd consider it old music, but really it was like 2019, 2020 music before the pandemic and before everything went crazy. We were just literally, my friend Niki was sweeping and Old Town Road was playing in the back, and it was just such a vibe. And some of us even hung out till like 1:30 in the morning, just sitting on my couches and talking. It was really the best ever. I'm just so grateful for my group of friends, because it wasn't always like this. So if you feel that you're missing out on a group like this, or you're really missing out on your community, just continue putting yourself in places and around things that you genuinely enjoy, right? We don't want to pretend to be someone we're not just for the approval and the belonging to fit into a group. So continue doing the things you love and staying true to that. And believe me, the people who love those same things and who are going to love you will just gravitate towards you. Let's get into this episode. My guest today is Niki Van Houten. She is a transformational coach, spiritual guide, and holistic therapist. Powered by a love of seeing others create a life beyond their wildest dreams, she supports people to identify and remove mental and emotional blocks to break free from limitations and embody their higher self. Since 2019, her work in retreats, one-on-one coaching, and group containers has supported hundreds of clients to liberate themselves, follow their soul's calling, unlock their infinite potential, and express their most authentic, true selves. In her coaching practice, she uses a diverse range of modalities and tools such as hypnotherapy, neurolinguistic programming, parts work, somatic therapy, breath work, sound healing, and numerous others. She is unwavering in her commitment to personal growth, making a positive impact on the world, and empowering others to do the same. So, you guys, let's welcome Niki to the podcast.
Yay!
Hi. I met Niki. Thank you. Thanks for coming on. I met Niki at book club, and you guys know I mention book club relentlessly, and the amount of people that I have, quality people that I have met through book club who have been as guests on the show, has just been really, really cool. And Niki really stood out to me at book club because she was kind of responsible for leading us in meditations at some of the meetings and kind of getting everyone grounded and centered for our discussions and just for the time that we were spending together. And I thought, what better person to have come on the podcast to talk to us about meditation. So welcome, Niki.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation. Book club has been a great way to connect with like-minded individuals.
Oh my goodness.
It's so important to be in community with aligned people.
Aligned is the key word.
Yeah, alignment is key.
Yeah, well, do you want to give us a little bit about your background, kind of how you grew up?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in Connecticut, in New Fairfield, Connecticut. And I have 3 older half-sisters, but they're like 10, 15 years older. So pretty much an only child of my mom and dad. And yeah, I grew up in a small town where everyone knew each other and not a lot of diversity. Like pretty much Caucasian people. That's it. That was it. And I always felt like since I was younger, I never fit in. That I was, I guess, weird and just not normal, not average. And I really learned that's actually my superpower, my uniqueness, and that we're not born to fit in. We try to, right? We want to be loved and accepted. And so I just see throughout my childhood and middle school and high school and even college, I was playing this game of like always trying to fit in and be the cool girl and the life of the party and, these masks that we wear throughout our life. Like I can clearly see those masks that I wore as mechanisms to fit in and be loved and accepted, right? So I have compassion for my younger self and I grew up super athletic, like played every sport in high school, varsity captain of 3 sports. I was the mascot my senior year. Like I've always been very social, and I think that's also one of my gifts is just connecting with people and meeting people.
Which has to be, I would assume, a bit of a struggle, like being this social person and not feeling like you have a group to find belonging in, right? Would you say that it's more of like a primal biological need for us to like fit in with a tribe, like for survival?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I think that it's an innate instinct to want to be in community. And actually, if you look at the blue zones throughout the world, which are concentrations of people who live past 100 years old, the number one commonality between these blue zones is community.
Right.
So I think for me, up until the last 5 years, like my whole life, I was wearing these masks. like a mask of the party girl, or a mask of perfectionism, or a mask of having my shit all together, you know? So it was as though everyone in my life, they weren't truly friends with me for me. So I think a lot of us do this. We put on these masks and we're like, this is me. And then I was always in community, you know, like you said, couldn't it be lonely? Or you said, is it hard to be so social but not feel like you fit in? Yes, actually that was the most depressed and anxious I was when I actually had the most friends. And I would be at parties, yachts, surrounded by hundreds of people, and I felt so alone.
Wow.
Because it was not people that were aligned with my values and my vision, and I wasn't showing up as my authentic self.
Yeah, it's almost like you just wanted to have friends for the friends, but we don't really assess, like, okay, are they aligned? Do they add to our life?
Yeah, and can I be my true self? My friends now, like, I can call them when I'm having a really hard day, you know, and I think that's important. Is like, can you be your full self, the fullest expression of yourself, your authentic self, you know?
I mean, fact. So how did this kind of transition you into your young adult years, and then kind of like what you're doing now? How did you end up here?
Yeah, so after high school, I actually moved to Florida. I went to Florida State, and my degree there was elementary education.
Okay.
And so my sister and my brother-in-law, they work with kids in the elementary school districts. And I guess growing up, I was like, oh, they're happy. And I always loved working with kids. You know, I did summer camps, and I was a nanny, and worked at a preschool. And so I was like, okay, this is my purpose, you know, like, this is what I'm here to do. And so went that route, elementary education. And then after college, and my minor was psychology. So it was interesting because I had that, like, nudge to go that route. And then after college, I moved to Thailand, and I taught English. And that changed my life. I was there for a whole year, almost a year, and traveled to 8 countries by myself. Like, that was the most time I was alone. Like, that was the first time I was really alone, you know, and traveling alone, eating alone. And
was that uncomfortable at first?
Oh my God, yeah, it was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable. I remember I called my parents, telling them I was, like, so homesick, and I just wanted to leave, and I'm so grateful for my parents pushing me and being like, stick it through, you got this. And so I'm very grateful for my parents. They've always pushed me to lean into the resistance, especially my father. And so, and it was tough because I was in a fisherman's village in Thailand where, like, I was this tall, blonde, white girl, you know? So I was like an alien. But it was a really beautiful experience, being able to travel and teach children. And then towards the end, I actually got into a motorbike accident, which was a near-death experience.
Wow.
And
tell us more about that.
Yeah, so actually the #1 cause of death in Thailand is for motorbikes. It's pretty common.
Okay.
But at the time, I was really into partying, drinking a lot, doing drugs, and like recreational party drugs. And yeah, I got into a motorbike accident, and really was a big wake-up call for me.
During your time alone in Thailand, when did you start finding the good in being alone?
And I think I'm actually relearning that right now in the season I'm in, is how can we fall in love with being alone, you know? So I think that a lot of people experience loneliness, and I think it was embracing that, you know, like, just allowing myself to feel the loneliness and remind myself that I'm not alone, you know? I think we think we're alone, but we're not. Like, we're always connected to everyone and everything, and I think that's honestly what has led me on a spiritual journey, a spiritual path of, like, feeling this connection with the universe, with God, and with everyone. I would say that after a few months in, that's when I really was like, ooh, I actually really love spending time with myself.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's an invitation for a lot of people, is like, how can you learn to enjoy your own company? You know, like take yourself, I call them solo dates, SOULO, and just go on, take yourself on a date, buy yourself flowers.
And it makes you feel so good. For anyone who hasn't tried doing that, or if you think that you need a special someone to do this for you, no, it feels so good, just like showering yourself with love.
Yeah, I've been moving through an uncoupling the last 4 months, and just like we were so merged, you know, we were so intertwined. And so recently I did a dance class by myself, and I did a singing lesson, and just been like doing more art, and so finding new hobbies, like learning more about myself.
Do you think that a lot of people in today's society get tripped up on loneliness versus solitude? Because loneliness can cause us to die if we feel feel lonely, if we don't have contact with the world. But at the same time, there's solitude, which means a healthy way of spending alone time.
Yeah, I think that if whatever your default has been, do the opposite. I think that a lot of expansion comes from doing the opposite of what we would normally do. So, for example, my default has always been to be around people, or my default has been in romantic relationships, to be doing everything together, right? So I'm feeling into right now actually a season of solitude, being alone, of not, because in the past I would break up and then go right into the next relationship, and so it's like, okay, that's what I normally would do, right? And that's what's easy for me, but what would be challenging? Where's the resistance? Because that's where a lot of times the growth is, and the expansion.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm so glad you bring that up, because I have also been finding the same to be true for me, and I will need to find which book of mine I read this in. I really do. But the thought kind of is that it's actually easier for our brains. Our brains are actually wired to swing from one side to the extreme opposite other, instead of trying to make tiny little gradual changes towards that other idea. So if you feel like something's not working out for you, try the exact opposite. You know, it might work out for you.
Yeah, and I think there's a quote, I forget who says it, but it's like, the areas in your life where you're avoiding, like that is a portal for expansion. So it's like, what am I avoiding in my life?
Yes.
Or like, where is there resistance? And how can I lean into that? You know?
There's definitely a few things I'm avoiding right now. And it's self-accountability, not in the way of like, oh, I'm doing something bad and I need to be accountable for it. It's like, I have an entire system that can help me track my goals, my progress, whether I'm doing those things every day. I just can't bring myself to log in and look at it, you know? Because I don't know why I'm scared of it, but it's like, no, this tool is right here. You just need to use it. It'll help you reach your goals. You have to see what you're doing wrong and assess certain things.
I love that you shared that, because a lot of us know what we need to do. One of my clients this week was like, I know I need to do this thing and I haven't been doing it. So I'm like, okay, well, why not? Like, what's underneath that resistance, right? What's underneath that? And I think sometimes just by committing and doing it, it's like we build that self-trust.
Yeah, and even though I'm not logging into my little database where I'm supposed to be tracking all this stuff, at least I have built up confidence over the past few weeks of turning away from some of my bad habits that were taking a lot of my time and my money and my energy and focus, or like setting up more of a solid evening and morning routine so that I'm equipped during the day to actually focus on the things that need to get done. You know, it's like you kind of build your way up to it. You can't do everything all at once. So you are a transformational coach now,
so
right?
I'll go back into also how I got into this space.
Yes.
So got into the motorbike accident, near-death experience, changed the trajectory of my life. 2 weeks later, a buddy from college reached out and was like, Niki, you can talk to anyone. We're selling solar panels in the Bay Area. We're making like 15, 20K months. And I was like, oh my God, this is probably, and it was door-to-door sales. And so that was like the scariest thing I could imagine doing. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. If I could do this, I could do anything.
That's how I feel about sales.
Yeah, right? It's oh my God. And door to door was gnarly. So I did that I was in the solar space for almost 4 years. You know, I did door to door. I managed a sales team of all guys. Then I got into like the marketing space, selling leads and booked appointments to solar companies. And at that time, I was lost, I was depressed, I was anxious, I was burnt out. And I'm very grateful for that experience. I learned and grew so much. And also, I was so disconnected. I think a lot of women nowadays are very disconnected from their feminine because we're in this patriarchal society that's like pushing us to compete with men. And that's why when people are like, oh, well, men and women are equal. And it's like, no, there's a difference between equality and this sameness, right?
Yes.
Like, we're not the same as men.
Yeah, we might be equal in our worth and value as human beings, but are we equal in our capabilities, our mentality, just even our biology?
The biology is the biggest part, I think, because we have 4 cycles every month we go through. Men, it's just every day, right?
Yeah.
Like, just go, go, go.
Yeah.
And not to say men, I think also they need to rest and listen to their bodies. But I think
they're better equipped for stress in ways that women are just not.
Yes, or they can just take more consistent action, right? So I think at that time I was disconnected from my body and I was just in hustle grind mode, which again, very grateful for, but I think women will stop getting their periods.
There's always consequences. There are. And then we're literally taught, it's crammed down our throats that the consequences are normal.
Yeah.
And I mean, listen, I could talk about this all day. This is what my podcast is about. But I think the biggest thing apart from being out of touch with our femininity is like we're out of touch with our wombs. We're taught that period is bad, it's gross, it needs to be stuffed down. And that's just my goal for all women is to reconnect with your womb because that's where your superpower flows from.
Our intuition as well. Yeah. We're, like women, we're such intuitive beings, you know, and creative beings. So yeah, so I was in the solar space in a really, really dark place. And then actually one of the communities I was like knocking doors in was a gated community. I like jumped the fence. It was like this private community with, I was like, if I get this mansion, it'll be a big commission.
I just need the one, right?
I just need the one. And so I knock on this beautiful home, and this Australian man brings me in. He's like, would you like to come in? And I look to my right, and there's this like, goddess that comes walking out. She's like, I'm Alexandra Joy Smith. And that ended up being my first coach and therapist.
Ooh, okay.
And so she really helped me get out of that dark place. And immediately, once I got to the other side, I was like, I want to learn this, you know? And I want to help others. You know, I think a lot of us that are on a path of service, we've kind of had our own hero's journey. You know, we've been through our own shit. And we've turned our pain into our purpose. We've turned our pain into our power. And so for me, it's like I've been through trauma, and like when I was depressed and anxious, I was suicidal as well. And so my mission is to make sure people that are going through that, they don't feel alone. Going back to the loneliness, that they don't feel alone, and that they feel supported and loved, and helping someone be able to come out the other side, you know?
I love that. I mean, it's really like God really took you through all of those events to not only forge you into the person that you're meant to be, but also to help others who are dealing with the same pain, you know, because I do think also pain has a purpose too in showing us that what other people are capable of feeling. If we can find a solution, then we're able to help others, right?
So that's what's my favorite part about being a transformational coach, spiritual guide, healer, whatever you want to call me, is that anytime I'm going through something in my life, I'm learning and I'm embodying those lessons, right? And I'm teaching from that lens of the path that I'm walking. And it's so cool because a lot of times I'll attract people, whatever I'm going through in my life. So right now I'm going through a breakup, and right now a lot of my clients are going through breakups, or they're experiencing a lot of heartbreak and grief. And so it's cool, this like mirroring effect.
I'm going to ask you a question about that, and then we'll kind of get into meditation specifically. But can you find a common ground or a common thread between all of this breaking up that's happening right now? Do you think people are ascending, or what? What is it?
What do I think it is in the collective right now? Yeah, I think that a lot of people right now are definitely, like you said, ascending and waking up. And I think a big thing too is like living authentically. Living authentically, what does that mean? I think people are like, this doesn't feel like this is helping me be my true self or the most authentic version of myself. Or I think people are in their relationships really reflecting on, is this aligned with my values? Is this aligned with my vision?
Yeah, I think that kind of going back to what you were saying about putting on all of these masks to appease certain groups of people, I think people do that even more so in relationships. And then they find themselves, oh wow, I don't like this person. I don't like the things that we've been doing and I've just been pretending to. Oh wait, you know? But they do that out of the need to feel love and feel belonging. But it's like, no, you just gotta be yourself, which is so much easier said than done. And that's the only way you can attract, you know, the alignment.
Yeah, and I think there's two sides of this spectrum I'm going to share about. So one is we live right now in a society of we're programmed of more and more and more and more, this consumerist society of more and more and more, better, better, better. And so I think one end of the spectrum is that, and people, they think, oh, the grass is greener on the other side, and they're so quick to dip and so quick to, especially with the dating apps and social media, it's like, this relationship is challenging, or it's messy. Oh, but I have all these girls on social media.
It's the illusion of endless choice.
It's like this illusion in it, and then people don't realize, oh, relationships are hard. They're not meant to be easy, especially if you're both growing and like your shit's gonna come up.
Totally.
You know, your wounds, your trauma, all of it's gonna come up.
And like you said, like the societal programming has a lot to do with that too, because we're taught that love is supposed to always only feel good.
Yes. Or we're taught that you, with the person you want to spend your life with, you're like, oh, this is my person. Like, oh my God. But I think that what we don't talk about enough is there will be moments of questioning. There will be moments of uncertainty, or there will be moments of like wobbling from one person or both people, right? I'm going through that right now with my partner. But it's like, can you have that commitment where even when you're in the wobble, even when you're in the questioning, you still come back to that commitment, right? And it'll actually make you stronger and bring you closer together. The pro side of that is that people are not settling, you know? Like, I look at my parents' generation and my sisters.
The older siblings.
Older siblings. And I'm like, they're settling, you know, because they didn't have many options. There wasn't this abundance. Like, it was like, oh, you're my person.
Right. It's a small town mentality too. And for some people it works. For some people it works, but I don't think you truly get to explore like compatibility really, you know?
Yeah, so there's pros and cons to that, right?
Totally.
And I love that people aren't settling. You know, like I love when people own what they desire and want. And if they're not getting that, they have the courage to walk away. You know, and be like, I'm worthy of what I desire.
Totally.
But sometimes we feel guilty of claiming what we desire and want, or as someone who's leaned more towards anxious attachment, there can be a guilt of feeling needy, of like, oh no, when I express my needs, is that me being anxious and needy and clingy, right? But it's like, no, we have every right to express what we need.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And at the same time, give ourselves what we need as well.
Totally. But if you're going to have someone in your life, then they need to be cognizant of your needs, and you need to be expressive of your needs because no one's going to be reading your mind. Really. But,
we women want that.
Oh, yeah, but I'll tell you, I am really glad to see a lot of women waking up from this conditioning that we've all been under, like being afraid to voice their needs, being too clingy. I mean, I used to go on dates and literally be afraid to bring up the fact that I want to be married, you know? And that's just, there's nothing wrong with that. So it is a brave stance, but I do think it's a step in the right direction if you just express what you're looking for, and that type of thing can really help you. Can we get into the meditation?
Of course, yeah.
Do we know where meditation originated?
Well, so it's been around for centuries, thousands of years in the East. And so we're really playing a game of catch-up in the West, you know?
Yeah, probably like Buddha started it. He's meditated for however many years.
As it's been brought to the West, a lot of these religious undertones have been stripped away, just so that it's easier to market.
More palatable to the Westerners.
To the masses, you know? And they'll hear like mindfulness meditation, that's a big one.
Okay.
So thousands of years it's been around.
Can we talk about how meditation actually changes the brain and your mentality and mindset?
So number one is neuroplasticity. So the ability to create new neural pathways. So think of like plastic, flexible, malleable. So frequent meditators have neuroplasticity, so able to create new neural pathways.
And what's the opposite of that look like? People who have locked in pathways.
Yeah. Think of like the first person that comes to mind is like older generations. Yeah. Like very stuck in their ways, rigid. It's more like solidified. Like it's harder.
They're not open to new ideas.
Yeah. Whereas if there's neuroplasticity, it's easier to create new programming, right? So that's like a big modality I use is hypnotherapy and neurolinguistic programming. How to create new programming and new beliefs using neuroplasticity.
With hypnotherapy, I mean, I know it works, but how about for some of the listeners who maybe have been taught that it's demonic or, you know, not good or evil? How would you describe it to them?
Yeah, I would say, so there's like, most people when they hear hypnotherapy, they think of maybe like a hypnotist that's making you cluck like a chicken, right? So there's that. Like that exists, right? But then there's also hypnotherapy where it's honestly like a meditation, to be honest. It's I'm guiding someone through a meditation, getting them into theta brain state, but depending on what they're trying to program in. So for example, if someone has a belief that they're not good enough, creating new beliefs that they are good enough or they are worthy of financial abundance and wealth and prosperity. So whatever those new beliefs are specifically for them, or like I've helped people heal health stuff, acne, that's how I healed my acne, autoimmune, depression, anxiety, PTSD, being able to go into the past. So say you had a traumatic event when you were younger, going back to that event and creating a new story, a new meaning. So say the meaning before was very disempowering, or every time you thought about it, there was like an emotional charge. It's like, how can we go back to rewrite the narrative and the story?
I have chills right now. Our ability to alchemize things is, I think, the most untapped power for most people, because it's like you can really take a thought, a moment, an event, a trauma, and you can be like, what's good about this? And if you can flip it over on its head, you've won. You know what I mean? Because in a lot of these things, I'm so glad that you do incorporate hypnotherapy, because so many of our problems stem from our self-image, and a lot of times we're not even aware that like these stories have been fed to us. So yeah, props to people who are into, or like even aware or even curious about, you know, changing things instead of just taking on the victim mentality, which is very easy to do. But I look at my dad and I look at his brother who's 13 years older than him, and they have two completely different life paths. And that's because my uncle has always lived out of a victim mentality, and my dad has always lived out of a what can I do for other people mentality, you know? Two completely different lives. I did want to ask you, can you expound a little bit on the different brain waves and the brain states and why that's important?
Yeah, so when we're in a meditative state, we go into alpha brain state or theta brain state. So alpha is tied with relaxation and alertness, and theta is deep, deep relaxation. And another way to think about this is Albert Einstein has a quote, something along the lines of, we can't solve problems with the same level of consciousness. And so there's a difference between the upper mind and the lower mind. The lower mind is more logical, analytical thinking. Upper mind is more of that theta brain state when you're totally relaxed and there's just like total stillness and you're just present and now, and the now, there's no thinking, no thoughts. And that's when insights, messages, ideas come through that upper mind.
Which state is when you're asleep?
That is, I think,
Delta,
yeah. Delta, yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm guessing it's like delta when you're asleep, theta when you're kind of like coming out of sleep and your brain hasn't been like infused yet with your environment. And then it goes like beta, and then alpha, you're the most actually focused and alert. Yeah.
And then when they look at brain scans of people who've been meditating, they did a study with people consistently meditating for 8 weeks and found that there was increased gray matter in areas associated with learning, processing, memory, focus. And so those definitely, meditation helps with all of that. And then also it had an impact on the amygdala, which has to do with emotions and stress and high blood pressure.
That's our stress center, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also, I love how many studies are coming out right now about this, because they did one study that showed that actually your brain goes back, like it gets younger.
Really?
Which is interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a test you can take called your telomere years. Mm-hmm. So this is like you have your biological age.
And then your chronological age.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the same thing, you can look at your brain based on the health of your brain.
Cool.
Yeah.
I might have to do that. Yeah. Have you done it yourself?
No, I haven't done it. You get MRI or brain scans. Dr. Amen is a brain doctor and talks about meditation.
Love Dr. Amen. Yeah. He's good. So moving on to the next point, prayer versus meditation. How would you address the question of if people say, oh, I don't need to meditate, I pray. Can one replace the other, or are they two completely different things?
I think it's whatever is best for the person. Mm-hmm. You know, if someone has a prayer practice, I think that it's very similar. You know, like when I'm meditating, I also use that as a way to connect with spirit or with my spirit guides, angels. And so I think that if someone is praying, then it's very similar. Because the intention, right, is to be present and connected. Mm-hmm. I think if someone, though, is praying, so say someone's praying and they're thinking. They're like, oh, I'm praying for this, for health for my family, da-da-da. Mm-hmm. There's thoughts. Mm-hmm. And that's more outward. I think that it would be beneficial for someone to also have a practice of just like being fully present, you know?
You know what? That's a good point, because it's like if you're constantly transmitting and emitting, how are you ever supposed to receive?
Yeah.
And I think meditation really primes the brain for you to receive those things that you're praying for.
Yes.
That you're sending out the signal, you're letting that signal come back to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that if you could do both, then do both. Mm-hmm. You know? I think meditation also allows you to be with what is, you know, what's coming up in the moment. Mm-hmm.
Learn to sit in that discomfort, right? Yeah. Instead of trying to flee from it. Totally. How about meditation's effect on sleep? Does it help people sleep better?
Definitely. Yeah, I myself have seen that I've gotten deeper sleep with consistent meditation, and there are studies that show that people get deeper sleep or they get more amount of time in deep sleep to regenerate. It's getting into that alpha, that theta brain state, getting relaxed, lowering the blood pressure, lowering the heart rate.
I love throwing it on a quick little meditation before I go to sleep. It does have to be literally 5 or 8 minutes, because if it's any longer than that, then I'll fall asleep to it and I won't turn off my lights or anything. But I just love it. It really transitions you. Well, because, you know, even with a nighttime routine, you know, there's steps to it. I'm trying to get the dog ready for sleep, make sure everything's set up for the next day. And then, you know, even if you do avoid screens and anything very overstimulating like that, still, the wind down routine can still have your brain running and thinking. So for me, I find that it really helps to slow my brain down after all of that. Once I'm in bed and I'm like, okay, what we're going to do now is sleep.
It's like preparing, slowing down.
So I did want to touch on meditation and anxiety, depression, and other mental conditions. Obviously, you know, if you have anything like this, consult with your doctor first. But I did want to ask you, especially since you brought up the fact that you were suffering from the depression, anxiety, and how did meditation alleviate this for you?
Oh my God, it saved my life. I think meditation, like we were just saying, it allows you to be with what is, right? And so for me, with anxiety, is like pushing away, like feeling so much stimulation and so much energy. And I think we're taught with these mental illnesses, emotions, to either change it, get rid of it, or fix it. And that actually exacerbates it. It makes it more painful and harder, and just like, oh my God. You know, there's a saying, what we resist persists, and it just gets bigger and bigger. And so I find with traditional therapy, therapists are so quick to diagnosing, and then people are like, oh, there's something wrong with me, I need to get rid of this, I need to change it, I'm broken.
And then the pharmaceuticals is a whole other aspect of it.
Yeah, so I think the biggest shift for me in my journey, and then also helping clients to get off pharmaceuticals and heal their depression, anxiety, is just telling, like how can you be a safe space in your body? How can your body be a temple, a sanctuary where whenever emotions arise, you can just be with it and just let it know, you know, I feel anxious, or I feel sad, I feel angry, and that's okay. Just that sentence alone will change your freaking life.
Right.
I feel sad, and that's okay.
Or what's okay about this?
Yeah.
You know, I find that I ask myself that sometimes if I'm getting frazzled or irritated or like it's the anxiety, right? And it's like, Alina, what's good about this right now? What's good about this situation? And yeah, forcing yourself to alchemize the moment.
Being with the emotions fully. So I think meditation, if you are fully present, some moments, like for me, I feel total bliss and peace and love, and I'm crying tears of joy. And then other moments I feel sadness and anger and grief, and you know, and it's just viewing all of it as beautiful and just being with it, feeling it, connecting with your body, with your heart. And so, and I think meditation as well, it helps you to be more responsive versus reactive. You know, like being able to feel an emotion or see a thought and just kind of see it pass by, or know that this emotion is passing, it's temporary.
Without immediately clutching at it for attachment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And claiming it, you know?
Yeah, you're just, instead of reacting, you're responding. And I think that translates into everyday life where you can just be more responsive and you can take a deep breath and you can just, you know, show up as your best self, you know, instead of reacting and hurting people around you. We don't want to do that.
Totally. I mean, and it never gives you the outcome that you're wanting ever when you're reactive.
And I think too with depression and anxiety, I think that everyone, like honestly, I think I recommend everyone meditates, but I think especially if someone's in a dark place, like, double down on these practices and rituals, you know.
100%. What would you say to people who are like, oh, meditation doesn't work for me, I've tried it, or they just think it's not a real thing?
Yeah, so I think that meditation is like a muscle you need to flex, so the more that you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And I find that the people who say that they're not good at it, I ask them, okay, well, what does good, like, let's define that. Like, what is being good at meditation? And
well, they say, I can't sit still, I keep getting thoughts in my head.
So those are the people, that used to be me, and those are the people that, like, oh my God, this will change your freaking life. I did a leadership training, 60 people, almost everyone at that time, 4 years ago, said I was not present. And that changed my life because I've made it my mission since then to be fully present and grounded, where now people are like, oh my God, Niki, you're so present. You're an amazing listener. I feel like you're here with me because of meditation, because it's like I was so addicted to thinking. I was so hooked on thought, and I was projecting into the future and into the past. It wasn't serving me. And it was creating a lot of issues in my life. A lot of us are addicted to thinking and have a hard time focusing, we see with social media, you know? And so it's like realizing that life is in the now. You know, the more present you can be, the more that you will experience life. You know? So
100%.
It's a practice of coming into the now. And if you have a hard time being present and being focused and being still, then this is your medicine, you know? This is your medicine.
I think a lot of us unknowingly, of course, allow our brain to steal from us, from that present moment, whether it's like looking over our shoulder and being like, oh, I really shouldn't have done that. My life would be so different if I just hadn't, or if this hadn't happened to me, maybe, you know, I wouldn't be having these, you know, this anxiety, this depression, or we're so anxious about the future. Oh my God, what if this never works out? What if I never actualize? What if I never this? What if I never become a parent, you know? And it's like all of that literally robs us of the here and the now, which is the only thing we have. That's the only thing we have.
Yeah, and I think just remembering where our focus goes, energy flows. So if you're constantly thinking about what you're in fear of or what you don't want, a lot of times we subconsciously manifest what we don't want and what we fear. You know?
Totally. We're always manifesting. And that's why I've been focusing a lot on friendships lately because, you know, Aquarius season, it's very much about friendships, community, and also detachment. And it's like, how do the people that you hang out with make you feel? Because if you're hanging around people who you're jealous of or are jealous of you, then you're still manifesting, but you're manifesting out of spite. You know, you're not even manifesting the things that are truly your soul's desire. You're just over here competing with people who don't make you feel good. And that's why I think it's super important to like kind of take a check and an audit of your community and your friends. And are their energy preventing me from moving forward or from, you know, freeing myself of these chains?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think meditation in just moments of stillness and quietness, even if it means going on a walk without your phone, like those moments those moments allow you to reflect. Those moments allow for you to become more aware of what's working and what's not working and what gets to shift. But I think we're so constantly go, do, and we're distracting that we don't even have time to do that. Like, you know, so I think mindfulness is a game changer.
Totally. I mean, and you can really only understand it if you've experienced it. So
I think also just as like with the gym, right? Like you're not going to see results. You're not going to grow a booty after 2 weeks.
But you'll feel good after your first workout. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Maybe the results won't be visible to everyone around you or even yourself, but you'll know how you feel after you did a really good workout.
Definitely, yeah. And I think also knowing that you might not always feel so good or you because I think most people will say, oh, it doesn't work for me, or I don't feel less stress, or this or that. But it's like people are they so want instant gratification, but it's like, no, just like keep up with it. Like keep being consistent and you will break through and see the benefits and see the value. And one day you'll be like, oh my God, you know, you'll have a life-changing meditation where something comes through, or you have a big emotional release, you know, or just after 8 weeks of meditating consistently, you feel just more peaceful and you feel more present and you feel like people are, and then your outside world starts to reflect that, right? I have a saying like inner world equals outer world.
Yeah, and I'd imagine too, you'd feel just more in charge of your own life and your own destiny, you know what I mean? I mean, also I think God works with us in that too, but it's kind of like, I think the reason that a lot of people are so lost and hopeless nowadays is because they don't feel in control at all. And they're constantly grasping for some false sense of control. When it's like, control your mind, control your life, you know? Is there a best time to meditate? Like, does it matter when you choose to meditate?
I think that it really depends on you, you know, and just kind of test out what feels best for you. I think the morning is the best that I've found. And I do it multiple times throughout the day. Or if you're ever feeling stress or you're feeling blocked, you know, then you can do a quick meditation.
Or if something comes across your path that is going to piss you off and send you into a spiral.
Oh,
that's
for example, me and my, I don't know what to call him, my past partner, he said something that triggered me. And so instead of reacting and projecting at him, I said, hey, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes and then I'll call you back. Because in that time I was able to process what the wound was. Like what was it triggering? Our triggers are our greatest teachers. So it was like, here you go, look at this, you know?
And you were able to have like a normal conversation.
A beautiful conversation saying, hey, when you said this, a story that I created was that you don't prioritize me and that I'm not important to you. And that made me feel sad.
Yeah.
You know, and so he was able to feel the impact it had on me, and he said, I'm so sorry, that wasn't my intention. So it actually brought us closer together, but that was from me actually processing. And
you had to take a step back to really see, okay, where's this coming from? Or am I about to blow up over this? Or is this a moment where I can overcome something and like move forward?
Exactly, and just be with it. Be with that little girl, you know, that's like, hey, I'm here.
Yeah, always there.
Yeah.
Do you have any meditation app suggestions for the listeners? Like if they want to get started, what are some good ones?
Calm is a great one, or I use Insight Timer. I also find a lot of great ones on YouTube.
YouTube is free.
YouTube.
Totally.
So I like guided meditations if I'm specifically working through something. So for example, I'll maybe look up guided meditation for attracting new clients or guided meditation for healing heartbreak. So if I'm specifically working with something, but for me the last 3 years I've been meditating every day, silent meditation is also is really
it can show you a lot. I've really only done guided meditations because I feel like I've only started doing this in the past year, and already I can see that I'm pretty good at it, but at the same time I do still need some leadership to be like, okay, think about this now, imagine, you know, yourself living your best life. So that's really helpful to me, but I also want to kind of get into the silent meditation too.
If you just even start for 3 minutes or 5 minutes, you know, because I think with the guided and even with music, it's like you're still thinking. You're still using the mind, right? You're still getting hooked. And so with silent meditation, my intention is how can I just unhook from thought? How can I just be fully in my body and fully present and just in the now?
Yeah, so there's a lot of options, you guys, for if you want to get into meditation. There's paid apps, there's free apps. It just depends on how hard you want to go. But also, like Niki just said, just 3 minutes of silence can really get you started.
Yeah, and I'll actually use Insight Timer to time. Like there's like, they have like a gong or like a bell.
Yeah.
And then you can use that as a timer too.
Sweet.
Yeah, and people also, I hear an objection of like, I don't have enough time. Have you heard that?
Of course. That's the excuse for anything that you know you should be doing but don't want to.
Yeah, and what I want to say is a lot of my clients who are very successful entrepreneurs who I've, really pushed to be consistent with meditation, they actually say that it's made them more productive. So it actually creates more time. Because
you hear that? Yeah,
that's awesome. Because you're more focused, you're more effective, and you're more productive.
You know how to use your time better, just being that aware, right? Of like, okay, what am I doing with my day, right?
Yeah, and it's just being more focused. Because I think, honestly, your greatest superpower in this life, more than ever at this time, is your attention and your intention. Your attention, with social media, people are paying millions of dollars to grab your attention.
Everything is fighting for our attention span.
Fighting for our attention. So it's like, how can you take control of your attention? Because that's what's going to really change your life, is what you put your attention and intention on. So I think meditation really helps with that.
Yeah, honestly, this is kind of like a pretty popular question.
Yeah.
Are meditation retreats worth it?
Yeah. So in November, I went to Bali and I did a 4-day silent retreat, and we were meditating for 4 to 5 hours a day.
It's still challenging, huh?
Yeah, I would say if you're just starting out, maybe do something a little easier, but maybe we have some high achievers on here that just want to dive into the deep end. But yeah, it was life-changing for me. Yeah, if you want a life-changing experience, and I recommend Joe Dispenza. He posts an event, and it sells out. It's like frigging Burning Man. It sells out within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because people literally have life-changing experiences just from that. They call it the group field. So when people are meditating, so thousands of people are meditating together, there's this like energy, this potent energy, and this field.
Magnetic field, honestly, yeah.
And it's powerful.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do want to try that. And you guys, Niki is putting together a meditation retreat in Joshua Tree. Right,
we actually may change it here, like a day,
Okay, yeah.
But I do have lots of events coming up.
Yes, and more events coming up. So I really hope to be a part of one of those. I don't know if I can make it to Joshua Tree, but
this month I have 2 events, and the next month I have 2 more events as well. It's on my Instagram page. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's Niki Van. ITSNIKIVAN. I am stepping more into the medicine path.
Okay.
So psilocybin ceremonies I'm doing more of, which are also, it's very powerful as well. Yeah.
I'm going to have to try that with you.
And I mean, with meditation, you can still have, and I lead breath work as well, you can still have these psychedelic experiences.
Totally. I mean, I think it's so funny. I had this thought actually today while meditating and watching the sun come up. I was like, it's kind of hilarious that all these people in their 30s and 40s in San Diego are like stepping away from drinking and just finding that they can get high just by breathing.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people are here like just, oh my God, breath work.
It's life.
Yes. Would you mind leading us in a mini guided meditation? Doesn't have to be really long, but just for everyone who has stayed to the end of this episode, give them a peek of what you're about. And I mean, I love your guided meditations. So let's do it.
Yeah, so just start to get into a comfortable seated position. You can crisscross, or you can put your feet on the floor, whatever's comfortable for you. And then putting your hands facing up if you want to receive energy, or facing down if you want more of an inward internal experience. Maybe you want more groundedness. Just bringing awareness to your breath. Taking a deep inhale in through the nose for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Holding at the top. And sipping a little more air through the mouth. And exhaling slowly out through the mouth like you're blowing out of a straw. And coming back to normal breathing. Noticing how deep or shallow your breath is and just consciously taking deeper breaths. Using the breath as an anchor. So at any point if thoughts come in, just come back to your breath. Your breath is an anchor into the present moment. It's an anchor into now. And repeating in your head, it's safe to be in my body. It's safe to be in my body. And bring your awareness onto your heart. Just noticing if your heart feels open or contracted and closed in this moment. And without judgment, just feeling that. And taking a deep breath into your heart. And if it does feel closed, just keep taking some deep breaths. Or maybe putting your shoulders back. And visualizing your heart opening like a beautiful flower, blossoming open. Knowing it's safe to have your heart wide open, cracked wide open. Feeling your heart blossoming open. And as your heart opens, feeling more expanded in your body. Maybe feeling from your body, feeling what it feels like beyond your skin, beyond your body. Maybe feeling the walls in your room. Knowing that you have the ability and the power to tap into this awareness. So feeling this spacious awareness, this spaciousness, feeling what it feels like beyond your body, beyond your skin. Feeling all the love, the joy, the abundance, the peace, all of that that's outside of you. And as you take a deep breath, you're going to breathe all that inside. Breathing all that, you're resourcing from all the energy outside. Just remembering that you are abundance, you are abundant, you are love. You are worthy. Anything that you want and desire in your life, knowing that you are worthy of that. And that's all the explanation, that's all the justification you need, is because I deserve it, because I'm worthy of the life that I dream of. And just really feeling that in every cell in your body, I am worthy of the life that I dream of, I'm worthy of my vision. Just feeling that in every cell in your body. that you are enough, and that everything in your life that you desire as well is just becoming a vibrational match to that. How can you become a vibrational match? It's knowing that you are that. Whatever you desire, you are that. And you don't need the house, you don't need the partner, you don't need the money, you don't need the clothes to feel love and to feel joy and to feel enough. You feel that now. So take a deep breath and feel that now. I am enough, I am abundant, I am love, I am joy. And letting it go. And starting to wiggle your fingers and toes, coming back into your body, back into the room. Maybe placing both of your hands on your heart. Just feeling grateful. Grateful for your life and the people in it, and grateful for yourself for showing up. Life is a gift. Life is a gift. And even in those moments where it feels really messy and hard, just remembering that this too shall pass. It's all temporary, and it's all part of your story. Taking one more deep inhale. Letting it go. Just slowly opening your eyes, and when you open your eyes, maybe just look around the room for colors and shapes to ground your body, or just see what you see around the room. Feeling grateful. And you are love. You are love.
Oh my gosh, I felt something when I put my hands on my heart. I like felt a different feeling. Well, that was really cool, Niki. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, love.
Yeah.
Beautiful conversation.
Yeah, I hope you guys learned a lot about meditation. I hope you have some takeaways that you, oh my goodness, it would not be a downtown meditation without these damn sirens. I'm so sorry, guys. As you can tell, it's classic. But hey, it wouldn't be meditation if you just always had a perfect environment, right? It's being able to do it amidst anything.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Okay, with it all.
Yeah. So you guys, if you want to work with Niki, I mean, she's incredible at what she does. She's been able to help so many people in just anything that they're going through in their life, and helping them find that strength and that self-worth to just get through anything at all. And there's just really nothing that we can't heal ourselves from except for death, I think.
Yes.
But even that, you can face with bravery and with love.
Yeah, and I think that's like one of my favorite parts, is helping people to realize that they are their greatest healer. Like
absolutely.
Really find that inner healer, inner coach,
Yes.
inner guru.
Yeah, so if people want to work with you, how do they find you?
So I would go on my Instagram at ITSNIKIVAN, so it's Niki Van. And on my Linktree, there's a complimentary session link. There's the events that I'm doing in San Diego, online workshops, all the good stuff on there.
Well, I love you, girl. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a really great talk. And you guys, make sure to follow Niki. It's Niki Van on Instagram. She answers her DMs. She is open. And also follow Stellar Cycles Pod on Instagram. You guys can get the free grocery guide. I always welcome any ratings or reviews that you leave for the podcast. And until the next episode, make sure to spread the good word about Stellar Cycles with your fellow women, and let's all uplift our lives together. Till next time, Stellar Cycles out.